The following program is intended for mature audiences.
You're listening to Basically a Sports Show.
Follow us on Twitter at Basically Sports.
Subscribe to our podcast on iTunes.
And download every episode and more at basicallyasportshow.com.
Now here's your hosts, Zach,
Greg, Mike.
And you're listening to Basically a Sports Show.
What about that AL wild card?
I loved it. I loved every minute of it. Yeah, I can't complain.
Astros.
Yeah. I even
out of the Yanks.
I even broke out my Astros t-shirt and hat last night.
The Cardinals are now the only team left in it that I don't want to win the World Series, which of course means that they will win it.
Cardinals, Rangers, Dodgers. Everybody else can win.
I don't mind the Rangers or the Dodgers though. So
I'm okay with the Dodgers, not so much with the Rangers. I'm not wanting the Cardinals to win because of Cardinal hate like you guys have. I'm just doing it because of Cardinal fatigue. I'm like, let's have somebody else for once. So
Cardinals hate is great. Got to give in. Give in.
I can't. I can't get there yet.
So
we're all behind America's team, though.
Who's America's team?
Yeah, who's
the Toronto Blue Jays? Anyway, what do you see from the playoff field? So we know who we like and who we don't like.
Well, I think we should go by. Instead of doing the typical preview, like who we like and who we don't like, we should pick it on whose uniforms we like the best.
So the Blue Jays are going to win the whole thing.
Blue Jays.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm just kidding. I mean, I'm kind of kidding with that, but seriously, there really isn't a bad uniform in the bunch, is there? That I can think of.
As long as the Mets stay away
Texas
from the
is,
alternates.
and the Mets stay away from the alts. Yeah, I agree with you there.
Yeah, I think Texas is probably going to wear red too much.
Yeah.
But that's just their thing now.
But you've got the Mets, as long as they stay away from the blue alts. The Pirates look great. Dodgers always look great. I know the Cardinals always look great.
And the Cubs road jerseys I don't like.
I like the Cubs road jerseys.
The block Cubs with the piping? No.
Oh, no, that's their road alternate, isn't it?
Yeah. The Cubs were, that's an alternate.
Oh, it's an alternate? I thought that was the road.
No, I think
no, that's their road alternate. Their primary road it just says Chicago, and that's sort of rounded.
That game's starting up here in a second, isn't it?
Yeah, it started. Yes. Garrett Cole is taking the mound from my Pittsburgh Pirates as we speak.
They're not starting Pedro Alvarez at first.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's got a Teflon glove. Nothing sticks to it.
Yeah, but don't you need somebody to score runs?
He's not. No. Who they got at first? Rodriguez or who they got playing tonight?
Rodriguez with this awful long hair.
Yeah. I think it's 6-1, half dozen of the other. Rodriguez is a much better fielder, and Alvarez is kind of all or nothing, and I'm okay with Rodriguez. Just now, the first pitch. This is how far behind I am, Zach.
Right. Well, that's right. Now that all these live sports have come into our existence, we come into the new season of Greg is 2 minutes behind everything else. Anyway.
Yeah, I just want to throw in two really quick a CHL update. Pecan Subban. That's his new nickname. Pecan Subban is now on the board with an assist already.
Sounds like it should be racist.
Yeah, probably, and 2 blocks, by the way. So having a big night here, Pecan Subban.
Jesus.
Anyway, so what are we talking about? Baseball?
Who do we want? Who are we going to pick? What's going on?
I'm not picking the wild card game because I'd like to see the Pirates win, but hell, I don't know.
The problem is both these teams are fun. We'd like both teams to win, and no matter what, they're going to get crushed by the inevitability that is the St. Louis Cardinals.
Yeah, what's going to happen is whoever wins this game is going to take it to 5 games with the Cardinals and then lose in extra innings.
That sounds about right.
Off of a walk-off home run.
Hit by...
Walk-off balk.
Matt.
Walk-off walk.
Hit either by quadruple Jesus or Matt.
Right. I think of the 2 teams playing tonight, I'd have to say the Cubs probably have a better chance of beating the Cardinals than the Pirates do.
I think that, they have a deeper pitching staff.
And, so that would be the pick I would go with. If the Pirates win, like Mike said, they'll be lucky to take it to 5 games.
Plus, they've got Arrieta going tonight. He's let up, 2 runs in the last 500 innings or something like that?
Yeah, that's a problem.
Yeah.
And that might be another reason why Alvarez isn't playing tonight. They might have a book on him that just says Alvarez can't hit Arrieta, but then again, who can? So it's not exactly he's safe. I'm sure that.
Wow, you were really far behind.
I know.
My God.
I know.
You just looked at the stolen base?
Just now, yep. Just
then
now.
I'm not gonna spoil the game for you then.
That's okay. You can spoil it.
The Cubs are going to win the game.
Already?
Yeah.
Did they score already?
RBI single.
Wow.
RBI single in his next at back by Schwarber. This guy with no neck.
It's, well, you know, I mean, I want the Pirates to win, but like you said, I did pick the Cubs to win the World Series, so I got to.
So you do want the Cubs to win?
No, I don't. I'd rather have the Pirates win, but I do believe, though, that the Cubs have a better chance of beating the Cardinals.
But you like being right.
Yeah. I'm okay. I was right enough on college football. I can let this one slide.
Okay. Do you really think that whoever comes out of the series has no chance against the Cardinals?
No, the Cardinals. It's an inevitable.
I don't think
course of history. The Cardinals kill feel-good narratives.
That's true. I don't think it's as inevitable as Mike does, but I mean, they did win 100 games this year. I mean, they're a good team. I don't know how they do it. But
how?
They do it.
I don't know.
I don't either. Yeah, I don't get it, but
because they play the right way, guys.
Well, they do. I mean, like, you know, we talked about it last week. They ran into each other, almost killed one of their guys, and still made the catch. How many teams can do that?
Well, here's an interesting question about the Cubs as Chris Bryant comes to the plate. Remember at the beginning of the year when they held Chris Bryant out for those few games?
And I was made fun of for saying what you're about to bring up. Yeah, go ahead.
And they ended up how many games behind the Pirates for home field advantage in this game?
2.
2?
Or 1. Not
1
very
or 2?
many. Yeah.
You don't think that maybe Chris Bryant would have maybe gotten him a couple wins in this game's at Wrigley?
I wish that I had one of those big computer systems where I could go back and play an instant replay of when I brought this up back in April, and you guys said, oh, that's fucking ridiculous.
As we discussed this, Chris Bryant grounds into a double play. Great. Anyway, but I don't think that's going to make a big difference if this game was at Wrigley or PNC.
Nah. Over the course of a series, maybe, but one game, I don't know if that home field makes that big a difference, really. It didn't last night in New York, obviously.
Well, yeah. But I was down on the Yankees. They just not looked right the last few weeks.
Well, they're old.
Yeah. And then CC Sabathia goes to rehab.
I guess he was drunk in the clubhouse on Friday.
Well, you know, it's funny because, you know, when you celebrate clinching a playoff spot, what do? You pop a bunch of champagne and beer. Mm-hmm. And then you have one of your guys go into alcoholic rehab a few days later.
Right.
It's not funny, but
in a morbid way, it is.
Oh, I think it's funny. I'm not. He's got plenty of money. He'll be okay.
Well, I don't know. Like, this is.
It's fun. It's fun that we have some new teams, some new blood, some colorful uniforms,
right,
to deal with the playoffs. Like, I think Royals, Yankees, we're all going to root for the Royals, and it's not even a question.
Right.
And the Royals probably win that going away. But Royals, Astros, you got some competition. You got some, you know, you're just kind of happy to watch the baseball series play out.
If the Astros play like they did up until about mid-August, they've got a shot. If they play like they did after that, I'm not so sure. But that Dallas Keuchel, he's a hell of a pitcher.
Yeah, it came out of nowhere, too.
Yeah, and I mean, I thought when he came into that game on 3 days rest last night, I was like, he's going to get lit up because that never works.
Oh, he was great.
I know, and he pitched a great game. But as soon as he said he's on 3 days rest, I'm like, oh, my God. Because we've seen it so many times over the years. A guy comes in on short rest, and he's a great pitcher, and he gets lit up. Who's the other series? We've got Toronto and who?
Toronto, Texas.
Wow, that's going to be a lot of runs in that series, I think.
Yeah, well, I mean, can you imagine the Blue Jays hitting at the ballpark in Arlington?
Oh, my God. It's going to look like a launching pad.
Yeah.
The Rangers worry me, though. The Rangers worry me because they can mash it, too. It's why I wanted Toronto to lock up the number 1 seed because I didn't want them to have to play this series.
But I trust Toronto's pitching a hell of a lot more than I do Texas.
I was just going to say that, yeah. And if you look at, okay, whose ace left-hander do you like better, David Price or Cole Hamels? And
I might go with Price, especially the way he's pitched there.
Exactly.
In Toronto.
I don't think Toronto's going to have any trouble with him. I mean, I think in a better year, Texas isn't even in the playoffs. They just took advantage of a very weak NL West this year. The Angels weren't very good.
The Astros collapsed.
The Astros collapsed. I mean, they're on the way up, but they're a year early. Everybody knows it.
Yeah.
And the Rangers just managed to put it back together and take advantage of that. So I'm not too worried about that.
Yep.
And then what's the other one going to be?
You got Royals, Astros.
That's right, folks. I'm the baseball expert of the show. I don't even know who's playing each other.
And in the NL, we've got Dodgers, Mets, and who do you like in that one? Because
Mets.
Really?
Yep.
Yeah. I think this Dodgers team has a bad air about it when it gets to the playoffs.
It sure does.
I don't think they believe in themselves. I think that the creeping doubt will creep in on them. Yeah, they have Kershaw and Greinke, and that's great, and you can throw those guys out there. But Kershaw hasn't been great in the playoffs.
No.
But even if he's good, I said it when we talked about it last week. I just don't like this Dodgers team. I don't get a good feeling about it.
See, the thing is,
there's just a lot of good feelings going for them that I think can prevail.
The thing about this Dodgers team is that they, and maybe I'm remembering things wrong, but they always seem to at least be able to push it to the NLCS before the wheels come off.
Well, unless they play the Cardinals in the NLDS.
Well, unless they play the Cardinals, yes.
Right,
but they're not playing the Cardinals.
Right. When, like, Clayton Kershaw can pitch against every other team in the majors except for the Cardinals. He's garbage against the Cardinals for whatever reason.
And he's not good in the postseason against anyone.
No. Yeah.
I like the Mets because I think the Mets have better pitching.
And I think the Mets hit better.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah, the Dodgers, their best hitters are declining. Puig is coming back off injury. I don't see things kind of lining up right for the Dodgers.
I think a lot of this, honestly, is almost wishful thinking. Like, everyone wants the Mets to do well against this Dodgers team because the Dodgers are basically Yankees West. But I don't know. I'm not saying at the beginning of the year the Dodgers were my NL World Series representative. I don't think I'm going to be sticking by that, but I don't see them having too much trouble, honestly. I think this is going to be very anticlimactic on the series.
It's got the potential to be, I mean, despite all the nice new blood and everything and the new teams, it has the potential to be a very anticlimactic postseason, really.
On the NL side.
Definitely on the NL side, yeah.
I think on the AL side, there's a lot. I mean, no matter who wins the AL, I think we're not going to be mad with whoever wins the American League.
Yeah, even the Rangers, I'll take. I
still don't think the Rangers have it, but
no, I don't either.
In the NL, the thing that's going to happen is
Dodgers Cardinals.
Like, the wild card game might be fun, but whoever wins it loses the Cardinals. Dodgers beat the Mets. Dodgers implode against the Cardinals. Cardinals make another run to the World Series. Right.
It's hard not to hate them.
And then the Cardinals crush whatever feel-good story comes out of the AL.
Right, exactly.
Yep.
I know that the Dodgers spend money even more so than the Yankees do these days, but they don't strike me the same way the Yankees do. Maybe it's just like in California, it's okay if you're in L.A., sure, blow all the money you need. Who cares?
I think they haven't won anything.
That could be too.
I mean, the Yankees are infuriating because they were spending all that money, right? But then they actually won rings. Yeah. Whereas the Dodgers spend all this money, it's kind of more comically sad. And when it's comically sad, it's hard to feel too. Like, I mean, I hated when I was in high school and the Yankees were spending all that money and winning. Like, I hated the Yankees. I don't hate the Dodgers, even though they're basically doing the same thing because it just hasn't paid off for them.
Well, you know what, though? When the Yankees really only got the what was the last time they won? 2009?
Yeah.
That was really the only World Series that they, quote-unquote, bought. The ones they won in the late 90s, that was mostly a team that they developed themselves, which I always thought was hysterical. They spent all that money for all those years. And what did it take for them to finally put together a dynasty again? Was a lot of homegrown talent. You had Posada, Pettit, what's his name?
Jeter. What's his name?
What's his name? That
Bernie
guy.
Williams.
That Derek fellow.
Honest to God, I couldn't think of his name there for a second. That's how little I care for him. But they had Bernie Williams and other guys, and that was how they did it. They would bring in pieces to complement those guys, but they were the core of that team. And then in 2009, it was just basically, Mark Teixeira, CC Sabathia, the whole crowd. And
2009 was really when they bought it. But the problem, I think the problem why that buying their way to victory thing kind of sucked for the Yankees was because they kind of had that mini dynasty at the end of the 90s and then in 2000 when they beat the Mets. But after that, they may not have been winning, but they weren't exactly going away either. They were still
they were right there every year, yeah. But when the Red Sox, that was the ascension of the Red Sox during that era. That was the ascension
of the Red Sox. But, I mean, in 2001, they lost. They went to Game 7 against the Diamondbacks and ended up losing. They played the Marlins in 2005. No, not 2005.
2005 was the White Sox.
It was the Marlins won in what? In 2003, right. The D-backs beat them in 01. The Marlins in 03.
Angels won in 02.
It was the Marlins
won in
03,
03.
Red Sox in 4.
04 was the Red Sox.
5 was the White Sox. 6 Cardinals. 7 Red Sox. 8. Was that the year the Phillies did it?
Yes.
And then 9 was the Yankees, And then 10 started the whole Giants thing.
I remember 8 was hilarious because 8 was Phillies, Tampa Bay Rays for the World Series. Whenever they had the games in Tampa, they tried to make the Tropicana Field look like they tried to dress it up because it was the World Series. Like they put like the red, white, and blue banners out, but it was like this is as close as you can get to shining a turd without actually shining a turd.
It was, hey, let's hang some bunting up at the Sam's Club. That's what it looked like.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, look, I saw a Penguins jersey in the crowd. Do your thing, Pittsburgh. No, I love when people do that. They show up at Penguins games with Steelers jerseys.
Oh my God!
At least in Pittsburgh, at least with Pittsburgh, it's kind of okay. All the teams match each other. Like you can show up to like a Penguins game wearing like a Steelers jersey and like a Pirates hat, and you're really not out of place.
No, what is out of place is when you show up at an Indians game with a Browns jersey. That looks stupid.
Or when you show up at an Ontario Reign San Diego Gulls preseason AHL game in Anaheim wearing the New York Islanders Brooklyn jersey, which I saw on Monday.
Is it bad in person?
With numbers on it, and there's like stuff filling the blank space. It's not as bad, but it's still not great.
Okay.
But at least that's a hockey jersey. Like it could have been like someone wearing like a St. Louis Rams jersey too.
I've seen somebody wearing an Anaheim Angels football jersey at a Ducks game.
At that point, it's just I like sports.
Yeah. Chris Bryant played 151 games, so he missed 11.
Oh, well, I don't know. See, out of 11 games, is he good to win 3 of them? I don't know.
I don't know what the record was without Chris Bryant.
Yeah, I'd have to say probably not. I thought he missed like 30 or something. So 11 games, I'm going to give the Cubs the benefit of the doubt on that one.
It doesn't matter because as long as the Cardinals get into the tournament, they're a threat. It doesn't matter if they have home field advantage or if they're in the wild card. They're just the Cardinals.
Well, you know what? Even if they do win the National League, you've still got the Blue Jays can take them.
No, they can't. I would be so fucking... I would be dreading that. I've already written the Blue Jays World Series championship hats off to like the deepest, darkest pits of Africa at that point. It's like, no, it's just not happening. It's not. You know what? Maybe the Jays would. Maybe the Jays would, but I wouldn't believe it until I saw it because Cardinals just kill narratives. And it's lining up perfectly because all of the AL teams are feel-good narratives at this point. The Cardinals will win the World Series. They will win it in St. Louis, and then everybody with their jerseys tucked into their jorts will stand up and clap politely. Speaking of St. Louis, though, I wanted to bring up about St. Louis. The whole Rams to L.A., NFL to L.A. story is really kind of heating up. Recently, you had a report come out that I think it's Jerry Richardson who owns the Carolina Panthers, was sort of leading a group of owners trying to block Stan Kroenke from moving to L.A. because they thought that St. Louis's stadium was far enough along that it could – that, you know, it's like, oh, they're doing what they need to do to keep the team. Except a couple stories broke today. First, that the proposed Rams stadium would cost Missouri taxpayers $215 million more than initially believed. And according to Bob McNair, who owns the Houston Texans, who is the chairman of the NFL Finance Committee, and he's a member of the league's Los Angeles committee, he says that St. Louis's exact funding details for their new proposed stadium are late.
This is a deal they put together after it was pretty much a given that the Rams were going to leave town. There was no deal on the table before that, right?
They scrambled and put together a deal involving money they didn't have and land they didn't own, like the moments that Stan was like, yeah, I'm building a football stadium in L.A., try and stop me.
Well, here's my thing with that, and I think this is a good example of this. The same thing happened with Cleveland when the Browns were going to leave in 95. There was no stadium plan in place, none of that. And all of a sudden, when Art Modell said, I'm moving to Baltimore, just like St. Louis did, they scrambled and they put together a deal. If I'm Stan Kroenke, I go, where the hell was this before I announced I was going to move? If you wanted my team to stay here this badly, you would have done this ahead of time. So you know what? Fuck the NFL, and they need the. I'm sorry, the Rams need to move to LA.
One more news story that's a bit interesting. It turns out that the mayor of St. Louis actually wants to block the funding for the stadium outright. He wants to spend that money on to fight crime.
Good for him. Because
that's what they should do.
Kroenke's spending his money out of his own pocket, right?
Yeah, he owns the land in L.A., in Inglewood, and he's paying to build the stadium with his own money.
I think that it's just absurd that NFL owners are coming out and going, you know what, we're going to block this move, despite the fact that we've got an owner who's going to buy the stadium himself, and instead we want to keep it here where the taxpayers have to pay for it. That's just hypocritical as hell to me.
I find it hilarious that like the mayor of St. Louis is like, can we spend that money to fight crime? And people are like, no.
Yeah.
Well, no. We need National Car Rental Field.
God, yeah. It got a name. The stadium that has no funding. No funding details has a name.
The same thing happened here. Farmers Field was Farmers Insurance sponsored the downtown LA stadium that never got, it got through a bunch of hoops, but no money was ever put towards it.
It's just ridiculous. He's going to spend his own money. I just can't see how
his own land, his own money.
Right. How can you argue that?
He's not gouging the taxpayers.
No.
He's not, asking for money for anything. He's just, I'm going to build a stadium with the team that I own on land that I own.
And move the team that I own to the stadium I own that I built with my own money. And see, that's the thing. I think it's inevitable. I think it's inevitable because the NFL could try to block him, but ultimately, if Stan Kroenke takes him to court, what judge is going to tell an American business owner that he can't take his business and move them to his property, to be a tenant in his building? It's not.
I think the only thing would be that it's his business as part of a larger business.
Except that recent court ruling, it's actually precedent now in the American legal system that the NFL is not a single entity, but is instead 32 independent entities that are just under mutual agreement.
Well, not only that, but what judge in his right mind is going to sit down and rule in favor of charging the people of St. Louis taxes to keep a freaking football team over letting a guy go build his own stadium with his own money somewhere else?
In the current era of sports we live in, with every league, like almost every team in every city in every league at some point has or will ask for that city for more money.
Mm-hmm.
And now you have somebody that is going to say, no, I'm just going to do what everybody should do and build it myself. Mm-hmm. You know what I think it is? Now that we talk about it, I think it's that the owners don't want Kroenke to do that.
Because it sets a bad precedent.
Because then when somebody else is like, hey, build us money, it's like, well, I know you have more money than him, and he built his own stadium, so chop to it.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right, Zach. I think that's exactly what it is, because if you let him go out and do it on his own, and then the minute that, let's use Bob McNair, for example. Let's say they want to get a new place the stadium to replace the one the Texans play in.
Because God knows it needs to be replaced. It turns out they can't grow grass in it like they intended to.
But yeah, you know what I'm saying? It's just like, how's he supposed to go to the taxpayers? They're going to go, hey, you know what? Kroenke paid for it himself. You buy your own stadium. Yeah. I think you're right about that, but the whole thing's ridiculous. I know
ultimately, though, they can't stop him. That's the thing. If Kroenke wants to force the issue, if he wants to force it, I don't think anyone can stop him, which is why I think that the NFL is so desperate to quote unquote manage this process, because they know that if they try to hold a vote and Kroenke loses the vote and he goes ahead and does it anyway, they look like idiots. Yeah. Whereas if they can convince Dean Spanos to stop being like an insolent little fucktard, then if they can convince him to go in as either a partner or a tenant on the Inglewood Stadium with Kroenke and the Rams, then the NFL can save face. It's like, oh, we managed the situation. But if they try to force the issue, Stan will force it back. And if it goes to court, Stan's going to be, look, I own a business. I'm moving them to a piece of to a stadium I own on land I own that I built with my own money. How is it wrong for me to do that? And the judge is going to be like, no, you're right. You can move to LA, and they're going to, and the NFL can try to withhold Super Bowl rights or whatever, but
because it's really smart to keep the Super Bowl out of Los Angeles, the number 2 market in the country,
they're
right?
cutting off their nose to spite their face.
Exactly.
And you know who's turned out to be like not a douchebag in all of this, because other owners have, of course, gone on record, giving their opinions about what they think is going to happen. Jerry Richardson and what is it, Art Rooney the third, who owns the Steelers? Is it the third or junior? I don't know. Whatever. But whoever owns the Steelers, they've both gone on record saying that Stan can't just go to L.A. But Jerry Jones has actually been saying, yeah, Stan Kroenke, let him move to L.A. if he wants. I don't give a shit.
Didn't Jerry pay for his own stadium too?
He did, yes.
Yeah.
Well, because you know what? Jerry Jones also likes making money. And you know what would make money for the league? A team in Los Angeles.
Yeah, I mean,
I know what would make the most money? A team that LA actually wants, like the Rams.
Right.
Right.
This is just, it's amazing to me because back in the great migration of 95 and 96, none of these guys there was no one lifting a finger to stop any of these teams from moving. When the Rams left LA the first time, and when the Oilers left for Tennessee, and when the Browns left for Baltimore, and when Oakland left Los Angeles to go back to Oakland, none of this was happening. And now all of a sudden, now you're worried about it, and you want to manage things correctly, and they can't move. Give me a break.
I think what's absolutely fascinating in all of this is that, now, Zach, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't have a gauge on, the LA sports fan base, but from what I can gather, if you were to rank the teams out of the 3 teams in the discussion, if you were to rank what teams LA would prefer, it would be Rams number 1, Raiders number 2, Chargers dead last.
That's completely right. Yeah. The Rams, they get people there's a giant group called, Bring Back the Los Angeles Rams, that whenever there's anything NFL related in the city of LA or in the surrounding area, they make sure to show up. When the Rams were practicing against the Cowboys in Oxnard, those Rams fans showed up. When they were talking about building a stadium at the sports arena site, the Rams fans showed up. When the Rams played the Chargers last year, guess who sold out like 2/3 of the Qualcomm Stadium? Rams fans.
From LA, yeah.
Maybe I'm wrong, but I think if you polled 100 residents of that area, I don't know that the Chargers would show up as a team you wanted. I think it would be like 80% Rams, 20% Raiders, and the Chargers wouldn't even move the needle.
I think the Raiders would get more than 20, maybe 30, 40. I don't know.
Still not, but do you think the Chargers would even show up in that poll?
Probably not. But here's what I'm saying. Like, okay, I'm an out-of-town Chargers fan in that I don't actually have a personal connection to San Diego. So ultimately, as far as being a Chargers fan goes, I have no loyalty to any one locale necessarily. And hey, if moving to Los Angeles gives them opportunities to be a better team, obviously as a fan, I'd like to see that. But just seeing how this has unfolded, it seems to me that if LA is going to have 2 teams, and it seems inevitable that they will, whether or not that's at once or it's staggered, that it really needs to be, and we've talked about this before, but it needs to be Rams and Raiders, and it's just sort of pissing me off as a Chargers fan to see Dean Spanos angle his way in, like whether or not that it's either going to that he's kind of forced a situation where it's either Chargers Raiders, which would just be retarded, or Chargers Rams, which seems kind of weird on a lot of levels. It just pisses me off as a Chargers fan to see Spanos forcing his way into a situation where, as a fan of the team, I don't think he has any rights to even be involved in the discussion.
He's trying to force his way in.
Either that, or he's playing chicken with San Diego, where he's trying to force their hand.
What bugs me, though, is that it's been 20 years. In 20 years, LA was just sitting there. If Dean Spanos wanted to force his way into LA, he had 20 years to do it.
Exactly.
With no opposition. He could, and he likes to claim, like, it's a secondary market. Well, it could have been your primary market.
They've been working on 1-year deals with Qualcomm Stadium for the past, what, 10, 11 years?
Well,
around 10 years, yeah.
If you think about it, 5 years ago, if the Chargers decide they want to move to L.A., that's done. We're talking about the Los Angeles Chargers today. It's that simple. It seems kind of hypocritical for me, a former Cleveland Browns fan, to sit here and say a team should move. But as you get older, you realize that there are more important things in the world than wasting your tax dollars on a freaking NFL team. And I think if Kroenke's willing to spend his own money, he could put him in Montana for all I care. Yeah. I'm all for that.
But again, the Chargers only started to really make their push on this thing when Kroenke and the Rams made their push. It wasn't until Kroenke said, "No, yeah, I'm going to build it myself and do all this," that Spanos was like, "Well, no, that's our market now." Well, no, not anymore.
And I don't get the NFL either. I mean, all they've talked about for years is we got to get football back to Los Angeles. And they had opportunities again. You had the expansion round with Houston and Cleveland. Yep. They didn't have to go to Houston. They could have gone to L.A.
L.A. was actually their first choice, but the ownership group fell apart, and so they gave it to Houston instead. And I think at one point after the Raiders and Rams left, the Seahawks were rumored to move down. Yeah. In fact, I think it almost happened, but it was like a last-second bid by, I think, Paul Allen.
And even the Vikings threatened to move down here before, and the Jaguars and the Bills. And trust me, I've gone through the ringer on should we get an NFL team? This is like the closest and most legitimate shot at this city getting NFL football again. And if they screw it up, I don't know, man. It's just give us the Rams. Kroenke wants to bring them here. We want them here. It makes the most sense, and greedy, spiteful owners are getting in the way of this shit now. And it's really frustrating. I understand all the different crap that we've gone through before, and it's been kind of a circus. But now when you have a straight line, point A, point B discussion of man owns team, man owns land in Los Angeles, man wants to build stadium with his own money, team moves into stadium built with own money on own land.
Team switches back to blue and white uniforms, all is well with the world. See? It works out perfect.
Everything except the last bit. It works. It makes too much sense. And the longer and longer we wait with this stupid thing, the longer the NFL keeps kicking the can down the road, the more it feels like we're going to screw up and we're going to get Chargers and Raiders in the same stadium and the Rams playing in national rental car. And if we get three teams, you know who's going to be priced out of the market? The Chargers.
Ladies and gentlemen, Zach's Tabs.
Zach's Tabs!
Take it away.
We had history made by the Toronto Maple Leafs.
The Toronto Maple Leafs have made NHL history yet again. You know, when you are a franchise as storied and as treasured as the Maple Leafs, this isn't new territory. It does happen, though.
The Ducks have more cups than the Leafs do since 1967.
Yeah, I was going to say you make all sorts of history, except getting that
I'm sorry, listeners. The plebs were rising up. I have to put that down. The Toronto Maple Leafs have made NHL history by winning the first ever Coaches Challenge in NHL history, and in doing so, Mike Babcock has already cemented himself as the greatest coach of all time. No questions asked.
What exactly happened on the goal?
Basically, the Canadians scored a goal, Jeff Petrie scored, Babcock challenged it, and the goal was overturned.
So you guys get rings for that?
You know what? They're being made as we speak. We're going to have a first ever Coaches Challenge victory banner raising for the second home game, and the rings will be presented there.
Coaches Challenges will be limited to goals scored on potential offside or goalie interference. So,
congratulations, Mike, on making history. That's great, and I'll be ordering my T-shirt tomorrow.
The DVD will be out within the week.
Well, speaking of the NHL, our good friend Sean Avery, he got arrested for criminal mischief and possession of a narcotics.
You know what criminal mischief is, don't you? That's basically the legal definition for being a douchebag.
Mr. Avery was allegedly throwing objects at passing vehicles, like rocks.
What'd I say?
What is he, 12?
And he was apparently high on, like, Percocet. He had a $500 bail. He was freed, which is probably good because he's supposed to get married this weekend.
He's getting married this week. How am I celebrating the fact that I'm going to get married? I'm just going to get messed up on Percocet and throw rocks at trains.
Cars. His wife must be so excited.
We got to give props to the National Football League.
For what?
This last month of September means that the NFL went a full calendar month without an arrest for the first time since 2009.
Now that is an excuse to pop champagne.
I'm telling you, they should raise a banner somewhere in the league offices, I guess.
September was just the second month without an NFL player arrest reported since Roger Goodell began as commissioner in 2006.
Well, you know why this happened, don't you? It's the Chris Carter Fall Guy tape.
Everyone got a Fall Guy.
Exactly, yeah.
September was also the first time in 15 years that the NFL went a calendar month during the season without a player arrest.
15 years?
Yes.
Yeah.
During the season, not including the offseason.
When it happened, ESPN should have been like, and now live reactions from the commissioner's office. It's just Roger Goodell popping champagne.
Like a New Year's Eve countdown thing going on the night before it became official, you know, like at midnight.
They have one of those things in the office, like 45 days without incidents.
It's just like a dry erase marker.
It hit 30! Yeah, we did it! So congratulations, NFL. You've cleaned up your act.
Extra props that it wasn't February, because that just would have been cheap.
Yeah, it's 20
Yeah, no kidding.
I assume either of you guys saw the ESPN broadcast of the wild card game last night.
Yes, I did.
I sort of did. I kind of watched it.
I watched it with a seething hatred for everything that Alex Rodriguez is, and I was so happy.
Well, if you were listening to the ESPN coverage of that game, you noticed that there was a different voice as the color analyst.
Oh, yeah, the girl. I can't remember her
Jessica
name.
Mendoza.
She's good. She's really good.
That didn't stop Atlanta radio host Mike Bell from voicing his criticism.
That name sounds familiar. Has he been an asshole before?
Yes.
This is on Twitter. Really? A women's softball slugger as a guest analyst on the MLB wildcard game? Once again, ESPN too frigging cute for their own good. You guys are telling me there isn't a more qualified baseball player ESPN can use than a softball player? Give me a break. And the one that really nailed it home, yes, tell us Tits McGee, when you're up there hitting the softball, do you see a lot of 95-mile-an-hour cutters?
He called her Tits McGee.
Yes.
He actually called her Tits McGee.
And then in his apology that he put up on Twitter after
Dear
that...
Tits McGee, I'm very sorry.
You're close. I've been trending for all the wrong reasons tonight. I apologize for calling Jessica Mendoza Tits McGee.
God damn it.
Just like, So then the Atlanta Falcons actually tweeted out, embarrassed by Mike Bell's comments, given he's on our flagship station, inappropriate and disappointing. He's been suspended 2 weeks.
They should have fired his ass. First off, when she first started doing games on the I think she was doing games on like the, not the big, like the national games.
Yeah, like during like the Wednesday games.
And she was getting great reviews. And I think she's fantastic. I think she really knows her stuff, and she's good.
She was replacing Kurt Schilling.
Kurt Schilling, right.
Yeah.
But
who was probably ranting about...
Tits McGee.
Tits McGee.
She's good, and that's all that should matter. I think it's awesome. I think it's great that she's on there. So fuck you, Mike Bell.
It's a little different because it's just not something you're used to hearing.
Right.
A woman's voice give, the analysis of a baseball game, but no, she did well.
Yeah, what an asshole.
The last one, I'm very surprised this doesn't come from Canada. Imagine you're driving home and you pull up into you have a very long driveway in front of your house, and there's two mooses dueling in your driveway.
Well, first off, I think it would be about the coolest thing ever.
So this is a video from Anchorage, Alaska. Two male mooses with their giant antlers going at it in the driveway, ramming at each other.
Moose, that's an animal with a bad temperament. A moose, not a friendly critter at all.
People think the moose is like gentle and friendly because it looks so dopey. No, those things are nasty.
That's right. I think it would be awesome. I wish that would happen here. So is that it?
That's it.
Okay, well. Follow us on Twitter at Basically Sports. Go to the website, basicallysportshow.com. A Geek Show for Geek Show news and information. BA Football Show for the football show. And
for the badass football show.
That's right, yeah.
I mean, basically a football show.
I don't think there's ever been a more unfortunate Twitter handle than ours for that show. We'll see you next time on Basically a Sports Show.
Same sports time, same sports channel.
Please hang up and try again.